Chapter 1595. Nailing You. Jingyu finally came back to her senses from the sudden change in situation. Seeing Nailing Yu's aura slowly weakening, the corners of Jingyu's mouth curled up as she walked towards Nailing You and called out. Nailing, you didn't have the energy to look at Jingyu. Do you know how pitiful you are now? Jingyu calmly looked at Nailing You and said, the person you love doesn't love you back, and the person who loves you is thrown away by you like trash. Now, you're dying in their hands. Do you regret it? You're probably the most pitiful person I've ever met. Jingyu's voice sounded above Nailing Yu's head. Nailing Yu's hand slowly stiffened and her body trembled. The blood flowing from the wound was so large. You've never lived a good life for yourself. You've always lived for others. You shouldn't have cherished people. How pitiful. Jingyu sneered. She slowly squatted down in front of Nailing You and said, Nailing You, if there's a next life, I hope that you'll never appear in front of me again. After Jingyu finished speaking, she slowly raised her hand and unceremoniously pushed Xiao Chen's sword in half an inch. Then, she suddenly pulled it out and coldly stood up. Nailing Yu's eyes widened as she stared at Jingyu. You owe me this. After Jingyu coldly said this, she coldly threw the sword in her hand to the ground. She was so cold and emotionless. Nailing, you could clearly feel her life slipping away. She mechanically raised her head to look at the shadow. At the moment of her death, when she heard Jingyu's words, Nailing Yu's heart was filled with hatred towards Jingyu. Instead, it was filled with regret. Nailing Yu looked at the shadow. Her lips slightly moved as if she wanted to say something, but she couldn't say anything. Nailing Yu's heart was filled with anxiety, but more than that, she was powerless. Nailing Yu really wanted to say sorry to the shadow, but it was too late. Nailing Yu's eyelids slowly sank, and the light in her eyes slowly faded away. Under the calm gaze of the shadow, Nailing Yu's lips slowly curled up at the last moment, as if she wanted to smile at the shadow. However, she wasn't able to laugh in the end as her body slowly fell to the side. The person that Jingyu hated to the bone had finally died at this moment. His death was filled with such regret and sorrow. Jingyu watched as the shadow reached out and pulled out his sword. She watched as the shadow wiped the blood from the corner of Jingyu's mouth and slowly stood up. She lowered her eyes and then looked up at the shadow. In the end, you still followed me, Jingyu said quietly as she looked at the shadow. Yes. The shadow stiffly replied and then said, I want to take Nailing You to be buried. Are you willing? Jingyu suddenly laughed when she heard this. She looked at the shadow and said, seeing you mercilessly kill your original owner, I was thinking, were you going to cut Nailing Yu's body into 10,000 pieces? The shadow was silent for a moment and didn't say anything. Take her away. Jingyu faintly pursed her lips and said, originally, I wanted her to die without a complete corpse, but since you helped me, I will give you this chance. Take Nailing Yu's body and leave. Never come back. Chapter 1596. Many thanks. The shadow fell silent for a moment, then solemnly bowed deeply to Jingyu. Under everyone's gaze, the shadow reached out and picked up Nailing Yu's body. Step by step, it walked into the forest and disappeared from everyone's sight. Nailing Yu was dead. Jingyu's heart seemed to have calmed down at this moment, but she also seemed to have a comfortable feeling. Nailing Yu really was dead. That's great. Jingyu smiled faintly and turned to look at Yin Tian. Yin Tian had seen everything with his own eyes. When he received Jingyu's gaze, his eyes widened slightly. For some reason, alarm bells began to ring in his heart. Go. Lock up all the poison sect members, Jingyu said indifferently as she waved a hand at the people behind her. Jingyu. Yin Tian's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly took a step forward. His eyes were filled with anxiety. When Jingyu saw Yin Tian's appearance, she opened her mouth and was about to speak when she suddenly saw a small figure charge out. You bad person, bad person. The small figure with adorable cheeks cursed fiercely at Jingyu. Jingyu froze when she saw the little girl. Yin, come back. Yin Tian hadn't expected the little girl to suddenly rush out either. Panic and anxiety flashed through his eyes, and he reached out to grab the little girl without a second thought. Bring her here. Jingyu saw Yun Tian's expression, and a faint light flashed in her eyes. Yes, Xingyi answered and stepped forward. No, don't. Yun. Behind Yun Tian, a woman also rushed out. Her face was filled with panic. Mother! The woman called Yun was grabbed by Xing Yi and lifted into the air. Her legs kicked wildly as she cried out, her eyes filled with panic. Jingyu, I'm begging you, don't hurt her. Yun Tian was completely shocked. When Jingyu saw this, she seemed to think of something, and her lips curled in amusement. It looked like this little girl was Yun Tian's daughter. Jingyu raised her eyebrows nonchalantly. She looked at Miss Xiao, who had her hand grabbed by Interrogation Officer 1 and was about to bite Interrogation Officer 1. She really had a good temper. So fierce. Jingyu's lips curled in amusement. She looked at the little girl and said, What did you just say I was? Bad person. Let me go. If you dare to bully us, I'll definitely get my revenge when I grow up. The little girl looked at Jingyu with a ferocious expression. The threatening words came out of her mouth smoothly. Yun Tian and the girl heard Yun Er's words and almost fainted. Now that you mention it, it reminds me. Jingyu lightly curled her lips and said, If you want to cut the weeds, you have to dig up the roots. Since you said that, should I kill you now? Otherwise, when you grow up, you'll cause trouble for me. No, I'm begging you. Don't hurt my child. If you want to kill, then kill me. When the woman heard Jingyu's words, her knees went soft, and she immediately knelt down. She looked at Jingyu with incomparable humility and begged with all her might. Jingyu, come at me if you want to do anything. Back then, I was the one who chased you and forced you into a dead end. It has nothing to do with this mother and daughter. You can do whatever you want to me. Yun Tian hurriedly stepped forward and swallowed his saliva as he spoke. Chapter 1597. What deep love between husband and wife. Jingyu calmly curled the corners of her lips. She looked at the little girl in front of her, then at her mother, who was kneeling on the ground with an anxious look on her face. She waved her hand at Xing Yi and said, Lock him up. Jingyu. Yun Tian took a small step forward. Yun Tian, if you want your wife and daughter to be safe and sound, then give me Ling Xian in exchange. Jingyu expressionlessly interrupted Yun Tian. My patience is limited, and I don't have time to play any games with you. Ling Xian killed my son. I want her to pay with her life. As Jingyu spoke, her golden-green eyes flashed with a sinister, murderous intent. She quietly stared at Yun Tian and said, I know that you must have a way to capture Ling Xian, great young Master Yin. My request is very simple. As long as you can bring Ling Xian here, I will return your wife and daughter to you unharmed. Jingyu calmly looked at Yun Tian and said, If you dare to play any tricks with me, then you can wait to collect your wife's corpse and your clansmen. Jingyu's gaze landed on those people. She narrowed her eyes and said, I'll allow you to bring some people to capture them. I trust that you know who to bring. As for the rest of them, lock them up. If you don't come back, or if you do something, just wait until you come back and collect the corpses of these people. I believe that when you see the corpses of your entire clan, your expressions will be very interesting. Jingyu smiled indifferently. Her words were cruel. Do you mean it? Yun Tian glanced at his wife and daughter, who had been restrained. His Adam's apple bobbed as he stared at Jingyu with a burning gaze. Do you think that I'm a member of the poison sect? Jingyu smiled disdainfully and said, If I really wanted to kill someone, would I be wasting my breath with you? You have two choices. Either you capture Ling Xian in exchange for your wife and child, or I'll kill everyone in the poison sect right now. Yun Tian's expression stiffened as he looked at Jingyu with a conflicted expression. Were these really two different paths? It was clearly a path. All right. Yun Tian took a deep breath and said, I will definitely bring Ling Xian back to you, but my wife and child cannot be harmed in the slightest. Yun Tian, do you think you still have the qualifications to negotiate with me? Jingyu turned around and said in disdain, I'll give you 10 days. I'll wait for you here. I hope you don't be late. Otherwise, you might see something bad. Yun Tianxin's heart trembled as if she had made up her mind about something. She took a deep breath and said, "It's a deal." Yin Tian really took 5 or 6 people and left. Jingyu also calmly locked these people up and confiscated everything on them. She took good care of their food and drink. She didn't beat them or scold them. She also didn't give them anything to eat. Everyone's originally tense hearts slowly relaxed. Seeing how well Jingyu and her subordinates got along with each other, they couldn't help but feel relieved. Jingyu was resting under a tree when Xiao Chun walked over and called out softly. Jingyu groggily responded, then slowly opened her bright eyes and looked at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun sat down next to Jingyu. They'd been outside for so long. Xiao Chun originally wanted to build a shed, but Jingyu found it too troublesome and had someone bring a carriage over instead. Chapter 1598. However, Jingyu was too lazy to enter the carriage. Seeing that the weather was good, she lay down under the tree to sleep. "You must be exhausted from the past few days." Xiao Chun went up to massage Jingyu's shoulders. However, Jingyu brushed his hand away and muttered, "I'm sleeping. Don't be so noisy." After saying that, she turned around and went back to sleep. Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu with a faint smile in his eyes. He lay down beside Jingyu and reached out to hug Jingyu. He sighed deeply. "You talk to me." Xiao Chun pursed his lips and said, "I don't want to talk." Jingyu's body stiffened slightly as she replied indifferently, "You don't give up hope." Xiao Chun raised his arm and looked at Jingyu. "I sent people to search the forest for a long time, but they couldn't find Little Potato's body. It's very likely that Little Potato is still alive. Even if he wasn't saved by the people from Miracle Physician Valley, maybe he was saved by someone else." Xiao Chun gently put his hand on Jingyu's shoulder and said, "Even if there's a trace of hope, we can't give up." After Xiao Chun said that, Jingyu's body trembled slightly and slowly curled up. When Xiao Chun saw Jingyu's change, he felt a slight pain in his mouth. Jingyu was blaming herself. Jingyu couldn't forgive herself. "You Xiao Chun tightly hugged Jingyu and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm still here." Jingyu's body stiffened slightly. She turned to look at Xiao Chun and saw the deep worry and pity in Xiao Chun's pitch-black eyes. Jingyu's heart trembled violently, and she reached out to hug Xiao Chun. "Xiao Chun, I'm sorry." Jingyu's voice was slightly hoarse. "I'm sorry. I couldn't protect Little Potato." Jingyu tightly hugged Xiao Chun and said, "I should be the one saying that." Xiao Chun hugged Jingyu and said, "This is my fault. I couldn't protect you." Jingyu took a deep breath, and her eyes were serious. She raised her head from Xiao Chun's embrace and smiled brightly at Xiao Chun. "Now isn't the time to talk about this. I don't believe that Little Potato will leave me like this. No matter what method I use, I have to find Little Potato." Jingyu pursed her lips and stared at Xiao Chun with her golden green eyes. "Okay." When Xiao Chun saw that Jingyu had finally thought things through, he was very happy. He bent down slightly and touched Jingyu's forehead. He hugged Jingyu and lay down peacefully under the tree. The soldiers surrounded Jingyu and Xiao Chun. No one disturbed Jingyu and Xiao Chun. Just as Jingyu and Xiao Chun were lying there peacefully and talking with their eyes closed, a cry of surprise came from the other side. Jingyu frowned slightly. When the two stood up, they saw Xing Yi rushing over. "What happened?" Xiao Chun frowned and asked. Yun Tian's daughter suddenly fainted. Xing Yi took a deep breath and said, "Fainted?" Jingyu and Xiao Chun both furrowed their brows and pondered for a moment. They looked at each other and continued to walk forward. When they reached the place where the woman was being held, they heard the woman's cries. Chapter 1599. Her anxious expression caused Jingyu to frown slightly. "Go and find a doctor." Jingyu turned around and said to Xing Yi before walking towards the mother and daughter. When the woman saw Jingyu approaching, her heart trembled violently. She cautiously protected the little girl in her arms. "What are you afraid of?" Jingyu slightly frowned and said, "I won't kill you. Before Yin Tian returns, I won't do anything to you. On the contrary, I can't let anything happen to your daughter. If Yin Tian returns and sees that his daughter has died of illness, he might think that I was the one who did it. If he hands her over to me, What do you think we should do? Jingyu indifferently raised her eyebrows and said. When the woman heard Jingyu's words, she was a little doubtful and slightly frowned. Let me see. Jingyu slowly reached out towards the little girl. When she saw the woman's guarded gaze, she slightly curled her lips and said, Or, do you want your daughter to die in your arms? When Jingyu's words fell, the woman's body slightly stiffened. She looked at the child in her arms and that pale little face. Right now, she was completely powerless. Other than begging Jingyu, there seemed to be no other way. I beg you, don't hurt her. The woman's eyes were filled with pleading as she slowly released the hand that was protecting the little girl. Jingyu looked at the woman's eyes and sighed deeply. She said, I know the pain of losing a child, so don't worry. Nothing will happen to her. After Jingyu said this, she indifferently turned around and walked to the side. When the woman heard Jingyu's words, she was slightly stunned. It was as if she had never thought that Jingyu would say such words. Then, as if she had thought of something, she wanted to stand up and walk over. Don't move. The guard on guard suddenly blocked the woman's steps. Tie up her hands and make her come with me. After Jingyu calmly said this, she had someone carry the little girl into the carriage. As she checked if the little girl had any injuries, she waited for the doctor to arrive. Jingyu saw that the little girl was becoming more and more uncomfortable. She was even clutching her stomach in her sleep. From the looks of it, did she eat something bad? Call Xiaobai in and guard this place. I'll go out for a while. Jingyu thought for a moment, then turned to speak to Xing Yi. Yin'er, don't scare mother. The woman stood by the little girl's side, her eyes filled with worry. Jingyu glanced at the woman, then turned to leave the carriage with a faint, deep look in her eyes. What's wrong? Xiao Chun asked when he saw Jingyu. It's probably because she ate something bad, Jingyu calmly said. Then, she said, I'll go to the forest to find some herbs that can induce vomiting or laxatives. Let's test the effects first. Jingyu slowly said, I'll go with you. Xiao Chun calmly said. After instructing the guards to keep an eye on these people, he followed Jingyu into the forest. Walking in the forest, Jingyu seriously looked at the herbs. Jingyu naturally understood these herbs. After all, she had lived in the Roman forest for so long. How could she not recognize these herbs? Chapter 1600. Why don't you look worried? Xiao Chun asked with a faint smile as he leaned against a tree trunk with his arms crossed and watched Jingyu look for herbs. What's there to be worried about? Jingyu straightened her body and replied. Since she ate something bad, she probably wants to use it as an excuse to escape. Jingyu said nonchalantly. Both of us came out and gave her a chance. What an interesting girl. You noticed it too? When Xiao Chun heard Jingyu's words, his lips curled into a faint smile as he said, But it seems like this girl doesn't know how powerful that medicine is. She ended up like this after eating it. That's why I'm here to look for herbs. Jingyu said as she pulled out a herb from a crack in the rock. She looked at Xiao Chun with a smile and said, Let's go and see how this girl is doing. Xiao Chun raised his eyebrows calmly and followed Jingyu inside. There was a faint light in his eyes, and he seemed to be a little absent-minded as he looked at Jingyu. Hey, why do you keep staring at me? Jingyu was a little embarrassed by Xiao Chun's stare. She glared fiercely at Xiao Chun and said, I haven't seen you like this in a long time. Of course, I'm looking at you a little longer. Xiao Chun said so matter-of-factly that Jingyu's face instantly turned red. She glared at Jingyu coquettishly and said, You're not being serious. Let's go. Xiao Chun chuckled and went forward to hug Jingyu's waist. He whispered to Jingyu, and the two of them laughed from time to time. They didn't leave for long. When Jingyu returned, she saw that the place was in a mess. What's wrong? Jingyu asked calmly. Mother. Xiaobai saw that Jingyu had returned and hurriedly ran over. He stretched out his hand towards Jingyu and said through gritted teeth, Look at my hand. It was bitten by that wild girl. She actually tried to run away. Aya. Jingyu looked at Xiaobai's hand. Such a deep bite mark. This child was really vicious. Does it hurt? Let mother take a look. Jingyu said as she hurriedly put down the herb in her hand. She looked at the bite mark on Xiaobai's hand with a gloomy expression. It doesn't hurt. Xiaobai looked at Jingyu's expression and shook his head slightly. but I knocked that wild girl out with one palm. She's still lying in the carriage. I really don't know why Mother saved her. She's Yuntian's daughter. Who knows how much she'll hate Mother in the future. Silly child. Jingyu patted Xiao Bai's head and said, the child didn't do anything wrong. Even if she comes to take revenge on me in the future, I'll accept it. Mother. Xiao Bai slightly furrowed his eyebrows and then helplessly lowered his head. Go wash this herb clean, mash it, and make juice for her to drink. Jingyu ordered the person beside her. She slightly furrowed her brows and continued to ask, why isn't the doctor here yet? Xiao Bai, come over here and bandage the wound on your hand. Oh. Xiao Bai obeyed and walked over to Jingyu's side. Jingyu used Xiao Bai's alcohol to clean the wound and then bandaged it. She tightly furrowed her brows and said, you're not such a careless person. How did you get bitten? I didn't notice. Xiao Bai heard Jingyu's words, and his face instantly turned red. He silently pursed his lips and said, who knew that wild girl would be so fierce? Chapter 1601. You. Jingyu reached out and poked Xiao Bai's forehead. She said angrily, what did Mother tell you? You can't underestimate your opponent at any time. Even if the opponent is just a little girl, you have to treat her with 100% of your energy. Understand? Yes, this child knows his mistake. Xiao Bai bowed deeply to Jingyu. All right, go. Jingyu lovingly patted Xiao Bai's head and said, Father. Xiao Bai stood up and saw Xiao Chun, so he quickly called out, Xiao Chun responded, and his gaze fell on Xiao Bai's bandaged hand. He frowned slightly and asked, your hand? It's fine. Xiao Bai didn't even think about it and hid his hand behind his back, as if Xiao Chun had seen was a very embarrassing thing. He tightly pursed his lips and said to Xiao Chun before walking away with large strides, why does this child look so scared of you? Jingyu raised her eyebrows and asked, is that so? Xiao Chun asked casually. He turned to look at the carriage and said, I've already fed her medicine and she vomited once. She should be fine now. Jingyu indifferently responded and stood up. Is she well-behaved now? Jingyu's eyes carried a faint smile as she turned to look at Xiao Chun and asked, she's a lot more well-behaved. Xiao Chun's voice was also full of smiles as he followed Jingyu to the carriage. The little girl in the carriage vomited all over and finally fell asleep. Jingyu glanced at the young lady. Then, she heard someone calling for her. Interrogation Officer 1 had finally arrived with the doctor. After taking her pulse, it was as Jingyu had expected. The young lady had eaten something bad. Now, she had vomited everything she ate. She would be fine after taking some medicine to nourish her body. The woman guarding the little girl let out a sigh of relief and bowed to Jingyu with tears in her eyes. You don't need to thank me. Jingyu looked at the woman kneeling in front of her and said calmly, the reason I saved that child is very simple. Since I have an agreement with Yuntian, I will keep it. I will ensure the safety of you and your mother. Jingyu's indifferent words fell, and the woman looked at Jingyu with a complicated gaze. She looked at Jingyu's departing figure and sighed deeply. She wasn't a fool. How could she not know what Jingyu meant? Jingyu didn't need to do so much to save her daughter. Even if her daughter died and Yuntian came back, what could he do to Jingyu? He couldn't do anything. Jingyu asked Yuntian to capture Ling Xian to give him a chance, right? Yuntian's woman is really not bad. Jingyu's eyes flashed with a faint light as she looked at Xiao Chun and asked, what do you think? How could such a good girl be harmed by Yuntian? Xiao Chun was silent for a moment before he said, Yuntian loves his wife very much. Hearing this, Jingyu turned to look at Xiao Chun. Her eyes curved slightly as she said, from the looks of it, you seem to admire Yuntian very much. Probably. Xiao Chun reached out to grab Jingyu's hand and said calmly, I used to think that Yuntian was too arrogant. He always thought that the poison sect was invincible. If that wasn't the case, Yuntian wouldn't have been led by the nose. Chapter 1602. Compared to Yuntian, Yunjing is much scarier. As Xiao Chun spoke, Jingyu's eyes filled with praise. As expected of the man she fancied, his thoughts were the same as hers. This was also why Jingyu was so merciful to Yuntian when she wanted to cut off one of Yunjing's arms. From the start, Yin Tian had been led by the nose by Nailing You. Later on, he was incited by the Holy Family again and again. He thought his poison sect was so powerful, but now he understood that there was always someone better than him. Another thing that Jing Yu found pleasing to the eye was Yin Tian's love for his wife, children, and clansmen. If Yin Tian had abandoned his wife and children when Jing Yu suggested that he go capture Ling Xian, then the situation would have been very different. But now, it seemed that Yin Tian was wholeheartedly concerned about the safety of his wife and children. This made Jing Yu see him in a new light. Jing Yu was in the middle of speaking when she suddenly heard a commotion coming from the carriage. She raised her eyebrows slightly and didn't pay it any mind. The carriage was given to the little girl to sleep in. Jing Yu and Xiao Chan casually covered the carriage with a straw blanket and slept on it. After a day of torment, Jing Yu was really tired. She sighed deeply and fell asleep in Xiao Chen's arms. Jing Yu hadn't slept for long when another commotion broke out in the carriage. Xiao Bai was appointed to guard this carriage, and the sound of quarreling was coming from this carriage. "You damn brat!" Xiao Bai's voice was filled with anger. Inside the carriage, Xiao Bai's hand was tightly gripping the girl's neck as he said, "Don't think that I don't dare to do anything to you. Cough, cough, cough. Let go. You baddie." The girl was born with a delicate appearance. Her eyes were filled with anger as she glared at Xiao Bai. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to bite Xiao Bai's hand. "Crazy girl, are you really addicted to biting?" Xiao Bai was so scared that he quickly withdrew his hand. He stared at the little girl and said sarcastically, "I don't know what name your father gave you. You're actually called Yin Yin. How strange. It's a name my father gave me. What does it have to do with you? Get out." When the little girl heard someone say her name, her eyes were filled with anger. She glared at Xiao Bai and said, "Your name is ugly. Xiao Bai, Xiao Bai, Xiao Bai. You damn girl. See if I don't tear your mouth off." Xiao Bai was so angry that his face turned red, and he pounced on Yun Yun without another word. "I'll bite you to death." The two children were in a mess in the carriage. Xiao Bai was a man, so of course he could beat Yun Yun, but he couldn't be heavy-handed. He could only hold Yun Yun down and wipe the sweat off his face. What a crazy girl. She was even crazier than Feng Yu. Xiao Bai cursed helplessly. Looking at the girl who couldn't move because of his hand, he raised the corner of his mouth and said proudly, "Now do you know how powerful this young master is? You rogue, you villain, you actually hit a girl." Yin Yin couldn't beat Xiao Bai, and her eyes were filled with tears. She thought that if her father was here, he definitely wouldn't let her be bullied. Chapter 1603. The more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she felt. She couldn't stop the tears in her eyes and began to sob. Xiao Bai was startled and quickly let go of his hand. He thought he didn't know how to control himself and hurt Yun Yun. "Woo-woo, you're all bullying me, all bullying me." The more Yun Yun cried, the sadder she felt. She was also afraid that her parents would beat her if they heard her crying in the middle of the night. He quickly covered Yun Yun's mouth and said anxiously, "Don't cry. Didn't you want to bite me? Here, I'll let you bite me, okay? Don't cry." Xiao Bai said as he reached out his hand. When he saw that it was his injured hand, he paused for a moment and simply switched to another hand. "I'll let you bite this one." Yun Yun looked at Xiao Bai in a daze. She looked at Xiao Bai's bandaged hand. The white cloth was so glaring that she knew she had bitten Xiao Bai's hand. He saved her, but she still bit his hand. Now that she was crying, he even took out his hand for her to bite. Thinking of this, Yin Yun's little mouth flattened, and she was about to cry again. Hey, Xiao Bai said in a fluster. "Little grandaunt, I'm begging you, don't cry. I already said that I won't fight back if you bite me. Go away." Yin Yun pushed Xiao Bai away and angrily said, "Who wants to bite your hand? It's so dirty." Xiao Bai's mouth twitched when he heard this. If it was someone else who dared to say this, he wouldn't let them go. However, when he saw the tears on the little girl's face, he sighed helplessly. Why did girls like to cry so much? My parents saved you out of kindness and even let you sleep in the carriage. They slept in the haystack, but you still yelled and wanted to kill them. You really don't know how to appreciate their kindness. Xiao Bai said with a cold face. Mother was afraid that you would feel uncomfortable at night, so she told me not to sleep and stay here to watch over you. What about you? Yelling and yelling the moment you open your eyes. Who is the bad guy here? Xiaobai sighed deeply and said, back then, your father led so many people from the poison sect and forced my parents into a dead-end time and time again. Now, my father is giving you a way out. What else do you have to say? If it weren't for my parents, Xiaobai pursed his lips and said, I would be an orphan again. Xiaobai smiled faintly as he spoke, as if he had thought of something very bad. Without saying another word, he turned around and jumped off the carriage. Yunyun sat in the carriage in a daze. When she saw Xiaobai's footsteps walk away, she lifted the curtain and looked to the side. The figure lying under the tree was faintly discernible. He had really given the carriage to her. Yunyun's little face was filled with a complicated expression. She lay back down in the carriage, but this time she couldn't fall asleep. Sleeping on the soft bed was as uncomfortable as being pricked by needles. In the morning, Jingyu woke up early. She rubbed her sore neck and stood up. Xiao Chun, who was beside her, had already woken up. At this moment, he was riding a horse in the forest. It seemed that he had just come back from exercising. When he saw Jingyu get up, he turned his head slightly and said something to Xing Yi behind him before getting off the horse. Jingyu saw that Xiao Chun was still holding a pile of fruits. Jingyu's eyes revealed a faint smile. Chapter 1604. So this guy went to pick fruits early in the morning? You're awake? Xiao Chun took out a small fruit and said, try it. Jingyu took the fruit and wiped it on her body. She opened her mouth and bit down. She thought it would be sour, but it turned out to be quite sweet. Jingyu nodded in satisfaction and praised it. Xiaobai. Jingyu waved at Xiaobai in the distance. Xiaobai walked over with large strides. Father, mother. Xiaobai called out. Come, take a few fruits for that little girl to eat. You worked hard last night. Go get some sleep. Jingyu took a few fruits from Xiao Chen's arms and said, Xiaobai looked at the fruits in his hands and said unhappily, Mother is so biased, treating an outsider so well. You little brat. Jingyu smiled and tapped Xiaobai's head and said, she's your younger sister, and she's still sick. Go. Got it. Xiaobai quietly replied. Just as he was about to turn around and walk towards the carriage, he saw Yunyun and her mother, Madam, and appear behind Xiaobai and Jingyu. She seemed to be called in Yuqing. When Jingyu saw the two suddenly appear, she was slightly stunned. She then frowned in confusion and asked, What's the matter? This humble woman thanks the 9th Imperial Concubine and the 9th Emperors for saving my life. And Yuqing didn't say anything else and knelt in front of Jingyu. Jingyu was startled and turned to look at Xiao Chun. Then, as if she thought of something, she frowned slightly. I said before, this is a deal between me and Yuntian. You don't need to thank me. Jingyu slowly said. What this humble woman wants to thank is the 9th Imperial Concubine for not killing me. You didn't kill me, but you also saved my life. And Yuqing bowed deeply towards Jingyu. Jingyu couldn't help but laugh. She understood what Yuqing meant. You don't need to provoke me. Jingyu said calmly. I said I won't kill Yuntian, so I won't kill him. You don't need to test me. Yuntian deserves it. Jingyu smiled at Yuqing and said, However, your action surprised me. Aren't you afraid that I'll get angry and kill the two of you? You won't. And Yuqing looked at Jingyu and said, The 9th Imperial Concubine is a loyal person. I believe you. Ha ha, how interesting. When Jingyu heard Yuqing's words, it was as if she'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Her eyes were full of mirth as she said, Get up. I accept your bow. The words I told Yunjing to pass on are still valid. As long as the poison sect doesn't provoke me, everything will be fine. Jingyu turned to leave. The 9th Imperial Concubine? Thank you. Jingyu just turned around when she heard someone calling her from behind. She was slightly taken aback. She turned around and saw Yunyun kneeling on the ground. Her little face was flushed red, but she stiffened her neck and met Jingyu's gaze. Yuntian really raised a good daughter. Jingyu smiled and left with Xiao Chun. She could faintly hear Jingyu's voice asking, Where did you pick these fruits? Let's go pick some more. All right. Xiao Chen's reply came faintly. And Yuqing, Yun, and the others watched as Jingyu and Xiao Chun disappeared into the distance. Chapter 1605. Here, my mother told me to give this to you. Xiao Bai turned around and handed the fruit in his hand to Yun. However, after reaching out for a long time, Yun didn't reach out to take it. He immediately frowned and said, "Don't worry, this fruit isn't poisonous. If you don't believe me, I can take a bite and show you." Xiao Bai reached out to put the fruit into his mouth. Seeing Xiao Bai's actions, Yun anxiously snatched the fruit away and said anxiously, "I didn't say I don't believe you." Xiao Bai frowned slightly. Brother Xiao Bai, I'm sorry," Yun said in a very soft voice. Xiao Chan was about to say something when he suddenly froze. When he opened his mouth to ask, he saw Yun running away as if she had seen a ghost. What the hell is this? Xiao Bai frowned deeply. He didn't know what the hell was wrong with this girl. My daughter is naughty. Please excuse her. And Yuqing helplessly said to Xiao Bai as she watched Yun run away. Madam, you're exaggerating. Xiao Bai's expression recovered slightly. He politely bowed to Yuqing and said a few words before leaving. Yun, who had run away, hid behind a carriage and watched this scene. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt that Xiao Bai was very polite. When she thought of her apology, her cheeks immediately turned red. She lowered her head slightly and looked at the fruit in her hand. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. She wiped the fruit and took a bite. It was full of sweetness, and Jingyu's eyes were filled with joy. She suddenly felt warmth in her heart. Jingyu didn't know anything about what was happening here, because Jingyu and Xiaochun were currently walking in the forest. The two walked for a long time before they found a fruit tree. For someone like Jingyu, of course, she wanted to climb the tree by herself. But how could Xiaochun let Jingyu climb the tree by herself? You are catch. Xiaochun climbed up the tree handsomely. He picked the fruit and threw it down. Jingyu was a little unhappy at first, but it was fun to catch the fruit. She reached out and caught the fruit. She sat under the tree and ate until she was full. I really didn't expect there to be so many fruits here. After Jingyu had her fill, she lay down on the grass on the side. Jingyu stood up, grabbed Xiaochun's hand and said, "Let's go inside and take a look. Maybe there are more." Are you still not full? Xiaochun rubbed his forehead in exasperation as he looked at Jingyu. Who said we can't go and have a look after eating? Get up. Jingyu pulled Xiaochun forward. Xiaochun had no choice but to follow Jingyu. The two held hands and walked leisurely inside. Xiaochun turned his head slightly to look at Jingyu. He saw Jingyu's face as she raised her head. Her golden green eyes were shining brightly, and her white skin was exposed. Xiaochun's eyes shone like white jade under the sunlight. Her exposed neck and beautiful face were so attractive that Xiaochun couldn't take his eyes off her. Jingyu talked for a long time, but Xiaochun didn't reply. When she turned her head slightly, she saw Xiaochun's covetous eyes. Chapter 1606. As the sun gradually set, everything returned to normal. Jingyu lay on Xiaochun's body, panting weakly. Her eyes were half closed, and she didn't move at all. Xiaochun reached out slightly and stroked Jingyu's back. His eyes were filled with satisfaction. Neither of them wanted to move. After lying there for a long time, they both tidied up their clothes. When Jingyu stood up, her legs went soft, and she almost fell to her knees. Xiaochun quickly supported Jingyu. Looking at Jingyu's feet, the corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. You still dare to smile? Jingyu looked at Xiaochun's smile and hit Xiaochun's chest without holding back. Do you want me to carry you back? Xiaochun held back his laughter, but he couldn't hide the smile in his eyes. Jingyu glared fiercely at Xiaochun and said, I don't want to. There's a bit of the momentum from earlier. When Xiaochun said this, Jingyu's eyes suddenly filled with shyness. Just now, Jingyu was annoyed by Xiaochun's torment, so she flipped over and sat on top of Xiaochun. Xiaochun was talking about this momentum. Xiaochun. Jingyu glared at Xiaochun, embarrassed and annoyed. Okay, I won't say any more. Xiaochun had a faint smile in his eyes. He reached out and held Jingyu's body and walked out of the forest. When Jingyu and Xiaochun returned, The sky was completely dark. Jingyu didn't want to do anything at all. After eating some food, she fell asleep. As for the carriage, Jingyu left it to the two children, Xiao Bai and Yun Yun. However, there seemed to be something wrong with the two of them. When Jingyu woke up the next morning, she was surprised to find the two children practicing archery. Xiao Bai was teaching Yun Yun, but Yun Yun seemed to be a little stupid. When she picked up the longbow, it was almost taller than her. "Little shorty, you should wait until you grow taller before you learn." Xiao Bai laughed again. He reached out and took the longbow in Yun Yun's hand. He shot the arrow cleanly, and it hit the bull's eye. Yun Yun's eyes lit up in surprise. "Wow, so powerful." Yun Yun looked at Xiao Bai with eyes full of worship and said, "I want to learn too. I want to learn too." "You're too stupid. Go play by yourself." Xiao Bai stretched out his hand and knocked Yun Yun's little head without holding back. This immediately made Yun Yun frown in dissatisfaction. She pouted her little mouth and looked at Xiao Bai as she said, "Didn't you learn it bit by bit? I don't care, I want to learn too." "What you said is quite reasonable." Xiao Bai raised his eyebrows slightly. Immediately after, he seemed to have thought of something. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a call from the other side. Xiao Bai frowned, turned around, and said to Yun Yun, "You play by yourself." After saying that, Xiao Bai ran away. Yun Yun was very unhappy and slightly stomped her feet. Looking at Xiao Bai running away, her eyes were full of displeasure. She was clearly seriously practicing archery. How could it be that in Xiao Bai's eyes, she was just playing around? Yun Yun was very unconvinced. She thought in her heart that no matter what, she had to practice archery. When the time came, she would definitely make Xiao Bai look at her in a different light. In the following period of time, Jingyu discovered an interesting scene. Yun Yun was like a shadow following behind Xiao Bai. She called out Big Brother Xiao Bai sweetly. Chapter 1607. Jingyu was very curious. Just how capable was Xiao Bai? How did he manage to take down Yun Yun? However, Jingyu heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the two children getting along so well. What surprised Jingyu was that Xiao Bai was always at odds with Fengyu back then. Why was he so considerate towards Yun Yun now? Could it be that my son has grown up? Jingyu laughed involuntarily. She turned to the side to discuss this with Xiao Chun, but found that Xiao Chen's eyes were slightly closed as if he didn't want to say anything. Jingyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This man was really getting lazier and lazier. 10 days seemed to pass very quickly, but in these 10 days, a lot of changes had happened. Everyone woke up very early. Although Jingyu and Xiao Chun seemed to be very easy to get along with in the past few days, they didn't want to waste their time and energy on Yi Shiwen and Yi Shiwen. Jingyu had personally said those words back then when it was a matter of life and death. What kind of attitude did Jingyu have now? No one knew that they were all hoping for Yun Tian and the others to return. Jingyu was also waiting calmly. She waited from the moment the sun rose to the moment the sun set, but Yun Tian still did not arrive. The originally noisy place fell into a deathly silence. The eyes that were looking at Jingyu and Xiao Chun were filled with an indescribable fear. Xiao Bai stood to the side as his gaze fell on Yun Yun. His brows were deeply furrowed as he turned to Jingyu with a hint of worry in his eyes. He seemed to be worried about how Jingyu would deal with Yun Yun and the others from the poison sect. Xiao Bai thought that if Jingyu really gave the order to kill, he must protect Yun Yun. He didn't know why, but this thought naturally appeared in Xiao Bai's mind, as if it was reasonable. "It looks like Yun Tian hasn't returned. What do you all think should I do?" Jingyu stood up gracefully under everyone's gaze and spoke calmly. Her golden-green eyes slowly swept over the crowd. Everyone held their breaths when they heard Jingyu's words. On the road, a man was riding his horse like a madman. His clothes and face were unkempt and dirty, and his eyes were bloodshot. The people behind him were also desperately rushing into the forest. There was only one thought in their minds. Faster, faster. Yin Tian didn't even have time to bandage his wounds. He only focused on rushing into the forest. He knew that he definitely wouldn't make it back today, but Jingyu wasn't willing to give up until that moment. On the morning of the 11th day, Yun Tian rushed into the encirclement and practically scrambled off his horse. When he saw the group of people lying on the ground, his heart shrank fiercely. Was I too late? When he saw his wife and child also lying on the ground, his face immediately turned unbelievably pale. Father, you're back. Just as Yun Tian's expression changed drastically, he suddenly saw that the corpses that were originally lying on the ground started to move one by one. Yun rubbed her pair of sleepy eyes and looked at him with an expression of displeasure from being woken up. When she saw who it was that had woken her up, she immediately jumped up in excitement and rushed towards Yun Tian with a shout. She threw herself into his arms. Chapter 1608. Yun Tian's eyes were filled with joy as he held Yun in his arms. His heart was filled with gratitude, and it was the joy of regaining what he had lost. Because of this commotion, those who were sleeping on the ground all opened their eyes. One by one, they stood up. Father, I thought you weren't coming back. I thought you didn't want Yun'er anymore. Yun's face was filled with grievance as she stared at Yun Tian and said, Look at the uncles. They've all fallen asleep, waiting for Father to come back. It's Father's fault for making Yun'er wait for so long. Yun Tian's eyes were filled with joy as he looked at Yuqing, who was walking over. He reached out and hugged Yuqing as well. He sighed deeply and was unable to hold back his joy. On the other side, Yun Tian and Yun's father-daughter relationship made Jingyu yawn lazily. She looked at Yun Tian calmly as he let go of her. Then, she said calmly, Where's the person I wanted? Here. Yun Tian looked deeply at Jingyu, his eyes filled with gratitude. He walked over to the horse and unceremoniously pulled down a sack from the horse. From the outside, one could see that the sack was shaped like a person. Open it. Jingyu's eyes narrowed as she stood up calmly and said calmly. Yun Tian opened the sack and took out the person inside. How could Jingyu not recognize that familiar face? It was Ling Xian who had died in front of her. She didn't expect that she had been tricked. Ling Xian had the ability to fake her death and fool her. Very good. Jingyu waved her hand and said to Yun Tian, Your mission is complete. You're all free. When Jingyu's words fell, everyone present was in an uproar. One by one, they threw themselves into the arms of their loved ones. Their eyes were filled with tears. They originally thought that if Yun Tian and the rest didn't come back yesterday, Jingyu wouldn't have shown them any mercy. Yun Tian thought the same, but he didn't expect that Jingyu wouldn't do anything. Not a single one of them had died. There was a complicated look in Yun Tian's eyes as he looked at the figure walking towards Ling Xian. Suddenly, he seemed to have understood something, but at the same time, he did not understand it. Yun Tian knew very well who had provoked the other party first. It was the poison sect's fault from the start. If Jingyu had really attacked the poison sect, Yun Tian wouldn't have said a word. But now, Jingyu was merciful and let the poison sect off. Jingyu stood beside Ling Xian, raised her hand slightly to the person beside her, and said, Wake her up. Understood. Xing Yi answered respectfully. He went to fetch a basin of water and splashed it on Ling Xian without any trace of politeness. Ling Xian shuddered and woke up. Her eyes widened as she looked at her surroundings. In the end, her gaze landed on Jingyu and Xiao Chun. Miss Ling Xian, long time no see. Jingyu's lips curled into an incomparably radiant smile. Her light greeting was as gentle as if she'd just met a good friend. But Yun Tian, who was standing to the side, could clearly sense the sinister coldness emanating from Jingyu's body. Ling Xian's expression abruptly changed. She looked at Yun Tian's group and the rest of the poison sect. Chapter 1609. In an instant, she realized what kind of situation she was in. Her body trembled violently as she glared at Yun Tian with her pitch-black eyes. Yun Tian, you betrayed me. You betrayed the poison sect. Ling Xian was truly the daughter of the previous sect master. In the blink of an eye, she had pinned a huge accusation on Yun Tian, accusing him of betraying the poison sect. Ling Xian, you're the one who betrayed the poison sect. Yun Tian was unhurried as his pitch-black eyes stared fixedly at Ling Xian. Don't forget who's in charge of the poison sect now. Back when the sect master handed the poison sect to me, you, Ling Xian, were already the sect master's daughter in name. Yin Tian slowly spoke. If you hadn't been so willful and rash, disregarding the poison sect's survival and provoking people who shouldn't have been provoked, do you think the poison sect would have fallen to such a state? Yin Tian's face was filled with anger as he spoke. When he thought of how he had nearly lost his wife and child, an unknown rage rose in his chest. His eyes were filled with coldness as he stared at Ling Xian. You're spouting nonsense. Ling Xian's hands were tied. When she heard Yin Tian's words, she twisted her body angrily and spat viciously. You bunch of cowards! Are you that afraid of the 9th Emperor's and the 9th Imperial Concubine's revenge? I've always done it for the good of the poison sect. Yet you treat me like this. Ha, for the good of the poison sect? Yin Tian immediately laughed when he heard this. His pitch-black eyes stared fixedly at Ling Xian as he gently swung his arm and pointed at the group of poison sect members behind him. Then tell me, who was it that had turned our poison sect into this state? He asked. It was you. Yin Tian stared icily at Ling Xian. If you hadn't provoked Xiao Chun and Jingyu, would the poison sect have fallen to pieces and become homeless? Ling Xian, you brought this upon yourself. Yin Tian looked deeply at Ling Xian. It's your honor to die for the poison sect. Yin Tian didn't care what expression Ling Xian had on her face. Instead, Yuqing silently took a step back. The poison sect members also did the same. They'd always thought that Jingyu and Xiao Chun were wicked beyond redemption. They were the poison sect's mortal enemies. But after spending 10 days with Jingyu and Xiao Chun, everyone suddenly realized that things weren't as simple as they'd thought. As it turned out, Jingyu and Xiao Chun weren't that kind of people. Ling Xian, do you have anything to say after seeing this? Jingyu slowly strode towards Ling Xian as she asked calmly. Ha ha ha! Ling Xian suddenly burst into laughter as she looked at Jingyu. She stared fixedly at Jingyu as she said, I've calculated everything and done everything in my power, but I never expected that the poison sect that I've always wanted to protect would abandon me. How laughable! Jingyu sneered disdainfully at her words. Someone like you dares to say that you're protecting the poison sect? What a joke. Ling Xian, the only person you want to protect is Yunjing, right? Jingyu calmly looked at Ling Xian and said, I'm afraid. If Yunjing says that he wants to take complete control of the poison sect, you'll do whatever it takes to kill everyone who refuses to obey him, right? Chapter 16:10. Ling Xian's expression changed slightly. You don't have to say such ridiculous things. Jingyu smiled and said, Look at you now. It's disgusting. You've done so much for Yunjing. Then what did Yunjing do for you? Shut up. Ling Xian stared at Jingyu and said, Don't expect me to tell you where Yunjing is. I will never be fooled by you. Huh? Jingyu seemed to have heard the funniest words. She smiled faintly and said, If I want to catch Yunjing, do you think Yunjing can run away? You'd better worry about yourself. Jingyu looked at Ling Xian calmly and said, You made my child's life and death unknown. You made me separated from my child. Now, tell me, how do you want to die? I'll make sure you die a comfortable death. Jingyu's eyes were full of coldness. Her golden green eyes were so frightening. She stared at Ling Xian and said such words. Ha ha ha! Ling Xian laughed happily when she heard Jingyu's words. Her dark eyes were full of pleasure as she said, How does it feel to lose someone you care about? Does it feel heartache? I just want you to feel heartache. I just want you to have a taste of losing your family. Ling Xian roared crazily at Jingyu. Jingyu clenched her hands, which were hanging by her side, and her golden green eyes were full of coldness. Jingyu stood there and didn't see any movement. Xiao Chun, who was beside her, stepped forward and kicked Ling Xian's ankle without hesitation. A clear sound of bone breaking was heard, and everyone present shuddered. Ling Xian cried out in pain. Cold sweat dripped down her forehead, and her body trembled violently. However, the way she looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun didn't change at all. She gritted her teeth and said, "Are you angry because of embarrassment?" "Ha ha ha." Ling Xian laughed arrogantly. Just as she was about to speak, Xiao Chan calmly stepped on her again. This time, he didn't let go at all. Instead, he pressed on the wound a few more times. This time, Ling Xian couldn't even scream. She had lost her voice, and her face was covered in sweat. Her entire body was trembling. The intense pain had caused Ling Xian's little face to turn frighteningly pale. Yin Tian and the rest of the poison sect members couldn't help but shiver when they saw this. 15. Break all the bones in her body. Remember, I want her to live well and enjoy it. Jingyu slowly relaxed her clenched fists. Her expression returned to normal as she said, "You want to die so easily? I won't let you have your way." Jingyu probably realized why Ling Xian was trying to provoke her. Ling Xian knew that she wouldn't be able to live after falling into the hands of Jingyu and Xiao Chun. Since that was the case, why not anger Jingyu and Xiao Chun and kill her? That was Ling Xian's original intention. However, Jingyu and Xiao Chen's actions clearly understood Ling Xian's intentions. Jingyu almost couldn't hold herself back from killing Ling Xian after hearing the series of words that angered her. Chapter 16:11. But thankfully, Xiao Chan made the first move. Jingyu finally thought things through. She wanted to die so easily? Wouldn't that be letting her off too easily? Ling Xian's eyes were filled with panic. However, Jingyu didn't care about what Ling Xian was saying to provoke her and remained indifferent. After hearing Jingyu's order, 15th Xing, who was standing at the side, said, he calmly stepped forward and dragged Ling Xian to the side. Without any mercy, he broke Ling Xian's hand inch by inch. Ling Xian's cry of pain could be heard. Yun Tian hugged Yun Yun's arms and covered her eyes and ears. Ling Xian cried out in pain until she fainted. 15th Xing calmly retracted his hand and bowed slightly to Jingyu and Xiao Chun, indicating that it was over. Very good. Jingyu coldly curled her lips and said, "Take care of her and let her recover before breaking her. I want her to live well, understand?" Jingyu spoke with a faint smile in her eyes as she looked at 15th Xing. Yes, this subordinate understands. Jingyu's words not only made Yun Tian and the others shiver, but even Xing Yi felt goosebumps all over his body. He knew that Madame wasn't a soft-hearted person, but he didn't expect her to be this ruthless. When she became ruthless, it made one's hair stand on end. Yun Tian silently swallowed and didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. "What are you all still standing here for?" Jingyu turned around, and her gaze landed on Yun Tian's group. She seemed to be very curious as she asked, "Why aren't you leaving? Are you still waiting for me to treat you to a meal? We can leave now." Someone in the crowd swallowed slightly and asked Jingyu, "What else? Don't tell me you want to build a house here." As Jingyu spoke, her conflicted gaze landed on a pitch-black building. That was the residence of the poison sect that she had burned to the ground. Ahem! Yun Tian immediately coughed awkwardly. He turned to the crowd behind him and said, "The poison sect is officially disbanded. Everyone, go find your own way out. Remember to be kind to others in the future and teach your descendants well." Eldest young master. The eyes of the clansmen turned red. They used to be one of the top forces in the continent, but now they had become like this. However, none of them were unwilling to accept this. If there was any unwillingness before, it was probably because after seeing Jingyu's methods, that bit of unwillingness disappeared. "Let's go. We're still family. Let me know when you've settled down." Yin Tian's heart was also filled with melancholy. He sighed deeply and said, "Let's go. Young master, take care." One of them was the first to kneel, followed by the others. Their eyes were filled with sorrow, but there was also a kind of excitement. The excitement of having escaped a calamity. Their eldest young master had risked his life to protect them. Jingyu stood to the side and quietly watched the scene. Her expression didn't change at all as she watched the poison sect members leave one by one. She didn't say a word. Even after everyone had left, Yin Tian still hadn't left. "What?" Jingyu crossed her arms and looked at Yun Tian. "You still want to stay here and watch over me?" Are you afraid that I'll send people to kill your clansmen? Chapter 16:12. Yin Tian pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Jingyu couldn't help but laugh when she saw Yin Tian like this. You're really a good young master. Jingyu curled her lips in disdain. Jingyu, won't change my words. If you want to follow me, then follow me. Jingyu walked towards Xing Yi after speaking. She told Xing Yi to pack up and bring the others to Miracle Physician Valley. Right now, Jingyu was completely focused on Little Potato. She didn't have the energy to think about anything else. The matter of the poison sect had finally come to an end. The poison sect had been completely disbanded, and all of its bases had been destroyed. Jingyu's heart slowly relaxed. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others returned to the town from the forest. They prepared to rest for a bit before setting off for Miracle Physician Valley. This time, they had to find Little Potato no matter what. If he was alive, they had to see him. If he was dead, they had to see his corpse. However, things didn't go as planned. On the second day after Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the others returned to the town, they received 2 pieces of news. The first piece of news was about Little Potato. It was said that Little Potato's clothes had been found, and a letter was also found in the clothes. The letter only had a few words, and the general meaning was that Little Potato had been taken away. It said that Little Potato's life was in danger and that he would appear with Little Potato in a year's time. Then, he left behind these words in the mountains and left with Jingyu's son. He didn't even leave behind an address or a name. Jingyu had no idea where to start looking. When Jingyu received this news, she was both happy and angry. He was happy because Little Potato was alive and well and had been rescued. However, he was angry because the person who rescued Little Potato didn't leave any useful information. However, it could be seen from the letter that the person who rescued Little Potato didn't leave any useful information. This person really wanted to save Little Potato and even said that Little Potato's life was in danger. He hoped that nothing bad would happen to Little Potato. Jingyu's heart was beating very fast. Before Jingyu could recover from Little Potato's situation, another piece of news came in. What did you say? Jingyu suddenly stood up and said, Baijiu is seriously injured and dying. Where? What happened? Jingyu was completely shocked by this news. She looked at Xing Yi in disbelief. Yes. Interrogation Officer 1 nodded slowly and said, It's news from the disciplinary guard. It said that White 9 suddenly disappeared for a period of time. When White 9 appeared again, he was already on his last breath. We still don't know what exactly happened. Damn it. Jingyu's expression became very ugly. In this situation, Baijiu must have been injured because he wanted to save Yi Shui. Since it was because of Yi Shui, it must be because of the Sound Attack family. Go and investigate. Jingyu's eyes slowly turned cold, and she said, We must find out what happened. Yes. Xing Yi bowed and answered, This matter might not be so simple. Xiao Chun pursed his lips and said, What's going on with this Sound Attack family? Perhaps we have to investigate it personally to find out. After Xiao Chun said that, Jingyu frowned as if she thought of something. She frowned and said, If we want to find Baijiu directly, this might not have happened. Chapter 16:13. I don't know how White 9's injuries are right now. Nothing must happen to her. Jingyu sighed helplessly. Yi Shui and White 9 had gotten into this mess because of her. If it wasn't for her, this probably wouldn't have happened. Jingyu frowned deeply and sat silently at the side. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu as if he knew what she was thinking. He reached out to hold her hand and said, I'll let Qingge go over first. White 9 will be fine. Now that we have some progress on Little Potato's matter, we can rest assured. Let's deal with White 9 and Yi Shui first. Xiao Chun slowly frowned and said, But what makes me very uneasy is that the Sound Attack family is restricting you. It's really too dangerous. That's right. Jingyu also slowly frowned. Jingyu had seen how Jingyu was restricted by the Sound Attack family outside the Roman forest. Jingyu pursed her lips slightly, as if she had thought of something. Qin Bai's words seemed to echo in Jingyu's ears again. Those words made Jingyu's heart contract slightly. The other pupil was also known as the Beast Pupil. This sentence made Jing Yu's heart uneasy. Qin Bai's words under such circumstances couldn't be false. The beast pupil was only a symbol of a king. Was that why it was controlled by the sound of music? Jing Yu's eyes flickered with an uneasy light. She frowned deeply. No, this must not be the reason. Then, what was the reason behind it? Jing Yu couldn't think of anything for the time being, but she felt like she had missed something. It also felt like there was something she hadn't thought of. Jing Yu rubbed her forehead with a headache. Xiaochen looked at Jing Yu's actions and frowned slightly. He said, "If we don't face the sound attack family, we'll never know the reason. So no matter what, we have to find the sound attack family." Xiaochen frowned slightly and looked at Jing Yu. He said, "Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. This time, we can't be passive. We have to take the initiative." Okay. Jing Yu thought for a moment. Xiaochen's words were indeed correct. Jing Yu nodded slowly to show her support. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun had made up their minds. Naturally, they couldn't delay here. The next day, they had to leave with their people. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun were still thinking about whether they should bring the troops with them. But after thinking about it, they gave up. "Xiao Bai, go find Aunt Lan and Aunt Xiao." Jing Yu took Xiao Bai's hand and said, "Tell them to prepare the troops at any time and wait for news from Xiao Chun and I. If we're even a little bit late, immediately bring the troops and destroy the sound attack family. Don't show any mercy." "Father, Mother, you're not taking me with you?" Xiao Bai frowned when he heard this. He seemed unwilling to give up and said, "I'm worried about you guys leaving like this. Silly child." Jing Yu gently patted Xiao Bai's head and said, "It's easier to do things with fewer people. Don't worry, your father will protect your mother." Jing Yu said and turned to look at Xiao Chun. Xiao Bai was slightly stunned when he heard this. He lowered his head in embarrassment. Chapter 16:14. Just remember Mother's words. Do you understand? Jing Yu smiled at Xiao Bai. "Yes, I will remember." Xiao Bai nodded seriously. Jing Yu smiled in satisfaction. She turned around and explained the situation to Jing Yu, Xiao Wenshe, and the others. Naturally, she had her reasons for doing this. Jing Yu, Jing Lang, Xiao Wenshe, and the others didn't ask. "Yin Tian, do you see it clearly now?" Jing Yu looked calmly at Yin Tian and said, "I don't plan on chasing after your people. You don't need to follow me anymore. You want to find the people from the sound attack aristocratic family?" Yin Tian seemed to have heard something. In this small courtyard, he frowned slightly as he looked at Jing Yu and said, "Back then, the people from the musical aristocratic family used music to control you. Now, you actually delivered yourself to them? I know what I'm doing." Jing Yu didn't mind and said calmly. When Yin Tian heard Jing Yu's words, he was silent for a moment. He turned his head and saw Yun Yun, who was talking to Xiao Bai. He seemed to be struggling with something. In the end, he sighed deeply and said, "I heard that during those 10 days, you treated my wife and daughter very respectfully and even saved my daughter's life." Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and didn't say anything. "Since it's like this, then..." Yin Tian fell silent for a moment and said, "I'll tell you about the sound attack aristocratic family. You know?" Jing Yu's eyes lit up. She raised her eyebrows and asked Yin Tian. Yin Tian nodded slowly and said, "Back then, the people from the sound attack aristocratic family were found by the Holy Family. However, I was worried that the Holy Family would plot against me, so I sent people to investigate. That's how I remembered the information about the sound attack aristocratic family." "What's going on?" Jing Yu asked with a slight frown. "The sound attack aristocratic family is based in the desert. If you want to find someone from the sound attack aristocratic family, you'll have to go to the deepest part of the continent's largest desert." Yin Tianyi looked at Jing Yu and said slowly, "Everyone says that the members of the sound attack aristocratic family have long been extinct. They say that the tragedy that happened back then caused the members of the sound attack aristocratic family to cease to exist. Actually, that's not the case." Yin Tian slowly opened his mouth and said, "The sound attack aristocratic family is much stronger than we imagined. I only know that they exist in the depths of the desert. In the depths of the desert, there is a sand city hidden outside the oasis. That is where the sound attack aristocratic family is based. Yin Tian frowned slightly and said, "There is another piece of news. It is said that this sound attack family is guarding a treasure hidden under the Sand City. However, I don't know how reliable this information is. Qinbai knows better. After all, I didn't find this person." As Yin Tian's words fell, Jingyu's expression turned a little strange. Jingyu didn't know why, but she suddenly felt that she might have found out a big secret at this moment. "Why are you willing to tell me such a huge thing?" Jingyu paused and looked up at Yin Tian. "Ha ha!" Yin Tian chuckled softly. "If the poison sect was still at its peak, I wouldn't tell you even if you beat me to death. But now that things have turned out this way, what use do you think I have in keeping this information?" Chapter 16:15. If there really is a treasure trove beneath the desert, my poison sect alone won't have the fortune to enjoy it. Yin Tian sighed deeply and said, "For so long, half of it has been scheming. It's good that things are like this now. I just want to live a good life with my wife and child." Yin Tian seemed to have gotten over it in an instant and let out a deep sigh. Jingyu looked at Yin Tian's appearance, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. "Many thanks. Don't worry, if there really is some monstrous wealth, it's not impossible to share some with you." Jingyu winked mischievously at Yin Tian and said, "After all, I could see that my Xiao Bai really liked your daughter." "Jingyu." Yin Tian heard Jingyu's words and turned to see his daughter call Xiao Bai Big Brother Xiao Bai in a crisp voice. "When I grow up, I'll come find you." When Yin Tian heard those words, his legs turned to jelly and he almost fell to his knees. He turned to glare angrily at Jingyu and gritted his teeth as he called out Jingyu's name. "Ha ha! I didn't do anything." Jingyu shrugged cheerfully and turned to leave. Yin Tian glared at Jingyu's back and held his breath. He felt very uncomfortable and suddenly laughed as if he found it funny. Not too long ago, they were still at loggerheads with swords. He never thought that he would one day be able to speak so calmly. So it really was a step back in exchange for the safety of his entire family. If Yin Tian had been the same as before and always opposed Yun Jing and insisted on provoking Jingyu, he would probably be an ice-cold corpse by now. Jingyu has never been lenient with her enemies. Yin Tian's body trembled violently at that thought. He pursed his lips tightly and didn't want to say anything more. When he saw how reluctant the two little fellows were to part, his brows twitched. What disaster! The son of Jingyu and Xiao Chun. Please don't harm my daughter. Thinking that, Yin Tian hurriedly went up and shielded Yun Yun behind him. He politely said a few words before sending Xiao Bai away. From Yin Tian's perspective, Xiao Bai's future accomplishments would definitely be extraordinary. He had the demeanor of a general at such a young age. Moreover, he had Jingyu and Xiao Chun as his backers. No matter what, he was a powerful character. However, what Yin Tian wanted was for his daughter to grow up smoothly. He didn't want to get involved in these quarrels anymore. This Xiao Bai probably wouldn't be a stable master in the future. Yin Tian sighed deeply and retracted his gaze from Xiao Bai. There was only one thought in his mind. While the child was still young, he had to stay far away from these people. "Daddy, I haven't finished talking to Brother Xiao Bai yet." Yin Yun tugged at Yin Tian's sleeve unhappily. "It's fine. We'll talk about it in the future." Yin Tian smiled and patted Yin Yun's head. "Didn't you always say that Daddy won't bring you out to play? Now Daddy is bringing you out. Tell me, where do you want to go?" "Really?" Yin Yun was originally unhappy. However, after hearing Yin Tian's words, she immediately widened her eyes in joy and said, I want to go to many, many places. I want to wear the most beautiful clothes." Yin Yun chattered in Yin Tian's ear. Yin Tian agreed to everything. Jingyu and Xiao Chun stood at the side of the Yin's corridor. When they saw this scene, the corners of their lips curled up slightly, and they sighed faintly. Chapter 16:16. That's what Yin Tian told me just now. Xiao Chun, what do you think? Jingyu retracted her gaze and turned to look at Xiao Chun. "I'm not entirely sure." Xiao Chun was silent for a moment before he replied. Jingyu nodded slightly and said, "I think so too. If we want to know what's going on, we'll probably have to make a trip to the desert." Xiao Chun nodded slowly. "When we get there, We'll ask Bai Geo what's going on. If we don't get to the bottom of this, it'll be very disadvantageous for us. Jingyu frowned and said. Xiaochen also frowned when he heard this. He pursed his lips and agreed to Jingyu's words. After everything was packed, Jingyu and Xiaochen left just like that. They headed towards Taigao City in Cebu. Because of Little Potato, they were forced to change their route. Now, they had to go to Taigao City again. Jingyu and Xiaochen left with Xing Yi and Xing Shiwu. Xiao Bai and Xiaochen brought a group of people and followed behind them. Then, they made a detour to Tokyo to tell Shangwan Linglan and Lu Miaoqiu about this. This was what Jingyu had instructed at the time. This trip to Taigao City took a month. Snow fell once again. Winter had arrived again. In the run-down temple, Jingyu leaned against Xiaochen's chest and warmed herself by the fire. She sighed softly as she listened to the sound of the snow outside. She didn't know if their child had enough to eat and clothes to wear. Please don't fall sick. Xiaochen seemed to know what Jingyu was thinking. He reached out and hugged Jingyu tightly. Don't worry, Little Potato will be fine. Jingyu leaned against Xiaochen and closed her eyes slightly. How much longer until we reach Taigao City? About 3 to 4 days. Xiaochen frowned slightly and listened to the sound of the wind and snow outside. He said, the snow is too heavy. Maybe we will have to wait for a few more days. The road is blocked by the wind and snow. We can only go to the next town to hide for a while. The snow this year is especially heavy. Jingyu sighed and lowered her eyes. Don't worry, Qingge is already there. Bai Jiu will be fine. Xiaochen tightened his grip on Jingyu. Hearing this, Jingyu snorted softly, looking very sleepy. Xiaochen also stopped talking, and the four of them fell asleep in this dilapidated temple. The wind and snow lasted for the whole night. When the wind and snow stopped, the sky was already bright. It's really blocking the road. Jingyu looked at the snow-white world that had turned white overnight. There was a hint of astonishment in her eyes. Looking at the pure white world, her eyes were filled with amazement, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. The snow is so thick. I'm afraid even the horses won't be able to move. Xiaochen said worriedly as he glanced at the horse that they had brought into the temple. He thought to himself that it was fortunate that they had brought the horse in last night. Otherwise, it would most likely have frozen to death after the night had passed. Master, the snow is too thick. We might not be able to move. Xing Yi came back with his pants wet. He quickly walked over to the fire and said to Xiaochen and Jingyu. Xiaochen nodded slightly and turned to look at Jingyu's excited face. He raised his eyebrows and said, What? Do you want to go out and play? Chapter 16-17. No, I thought of something very interesting. Jingyu's eyes lit up. She turned to look at Xiaochen and said, Hurry up and look around. See if there are any wooden planks in this dilapidated temple. What are you trying to do? Xiaochen frowned slightly and looked at Jingyu curiously. You'll know in a moment. Jingyu refused to say anything. She reached out and pushed Xiaochen to look for wooden planks. Then, she turned around and started fiddling with other things. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu and smiled. He couldn't help but look forward to what Jingyu was going to do this time. While Jingyu and Xiaochen were having fun in the dilapidated temple, the snow outside began to fall again. The wind was so strong that Jingyu felt that this dilapidated temple wouldn't be able to withstand it. Would it collapse just like that? What are you doing? Xiaochen was really ignorant this time. Looking at what Jingyu was doing, he frowned and asked with a complicated expression. You'll know when you see. Jingyu didn't explain. She smiled and looked at Xiaochen as she continued to fiddle with her things. When she was almost done, he finally understood what Jingyu was trying to do. Dang, dang, dang. Do you see this? This thing is called a sled. Jingyu showed off the simple sled in front of Xiaochen as if she was showing off a treasure. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows and looked at Jingyu calmly. What's the use of this thing? Xiaochen asked calmly. Come, I'll teach you. As Jingyu spoke, she saw that the wind was still blowing outside. She frowned and said, Let's wait until the wind and snow lessens before we go out. Okay. Xiaochen nodded, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This snowstorm made it even more difficult to walk outside. Finally, Under Jing Yu's expectant gaze, the snowstorm finally stopped, and the sun appeared. Let's go, let's go. Jing Yu pulled Xiao Chun and Xing Yi out of the dilapidated temple. Jing Yu put the sled on her feet and taught Xiao Chun and Xing Yi. Xiao Chun and Xing Yi looked very curious. Do we have to walk like this? 15 Xing frowned and looked at Jing Yu as he asked. Look at me. Jing Yu walked towards a small hill and said, half squat and use this as a support. Then slide down from here. See? Jing Yu said and slid down the small hill. Her speed was very fast and she didn't fall or anything. Back in the modern world, Jing Yu was best at skiing. Xiao Chun, Interrogation Officer 1, and the other two were eager to give it a try. However, their eagerness to try resulted in them being thrown down with all their might. Jing Yu was in the middle of it all. After watching Xiao Chun and Xing Yi communicate a few times, she finally got the hang of it and started playing. Haha, is it fun? Jing Yu's face was full of smiles. Luckily, it was snowing heavily. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the chance to play. How did you come up with this thing? There was some curiosity in Xiao Chen's eyes. He turned his head slightly to look at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu smiled faintly and said, I dreamed of it. When Xiao Chen saw that Jing Yu had turned her head away and did not want to say anything more, his eyes changed slightly. He seemed to have realized something, but he did not delve into it and just lowered his head calmly. After a few rounds of practice, Xiao Chun, Interrogation Officer 1, and the others were familiar with the techniques they had mastered. Jing Yu, Xiao Chun, and the others were on their way just like that. Chapter 16-18. They chose the most effective path to go downhill, so they traveled quickly. They originally thought that they would have to rest in a nearby town for a few days, but now it seemed that they didn't need to wait. Jing Yu, Xiao Chun, and the rest headed straight for Taigao City. The snow was heavy and melted quickly. In the next 2 days, the snow began to melt under the scorching sun. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun also bought horses along the way to Taigao City. We're finally here. Jing Yu was wearing a thick robe. She raised her head slightly and looked at the 3 words Taigao City in front of her. She slowly let out a sigh of relief. There was a faint joy in her eyes. She found the inn whereby Gio was based on the location of the news. Ninth brother, ninth sister, you're finally here. When Qinggu saw Jing Yu and Xiao Chun, it was as if he had seen the happiest thing in the world. He rushed over to Jing Yu and Xiao Chun happily. Xiao Chun put his arm around Jing Yu's waist and calmly avoided Qinggu as he asked calmly, where is he? Huh? Qing Ji's excited expression froze. He looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chun's expressions and loosened his arms. He said slowly, he's inside, alive and well. Qing Ji's words were filled with hidden bitterness, but Jing Yu and Xiao Chun pretended not to see it. They quietly followed behind Jing Yu and Xiao Chun into the room. As soon as they entered the room, the first thing they smelled was the smell of medicine and Ninth White, who was lying on the bed with wounds all over his body. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's expressions changed when they saw this scene. They never expected that Ninth White's injuries would be so serious. What happened? Xiao Chen frowned and turned to look at Qing Ge. Judging from the wounds, they weren't caused by a sword. Qing Ji's face also turned serious. He slowly said, these wounds seem to have been inflicted by some wild beast. Both of his hands were bitten off. I don't know how this person came back here. Qing Ji's eyes were filled with surprise as he said, this Bai Jiao is a tough nut to crack. He almost couldn't hold on a few times. I didn't expect him to pull through. He's fine now. Then why hasn't he woken up yet? He was surprised and asked with a frown. Ninth sister-in-law, it's very uncomfortable to recover from these wounds. Qingge said with a conflicted expression, if we didn't give Bai Jiao some knockout drug and let him sleep when the bones were reattached, it would be like ants biting on his body. You're quite considerate. Jing Yu smiled faintly and said, that's good too. After suffering so much, we'll let Bai Jiao recover after this. Fortunately, you're here. Otherwise, we have to collect Bai Jiao's corpse. Hee hee, now you know how important I am? Qinggu said with a proud smile after being put to sleep by Jing Yu. Okay, tell us what's going on. Jingyu and Xiao Chun left the room and went to the next room to talk about the main topic. Xing Yi and Xing Shiwu were guarding outside. Chapter 16-19. Tell me about Little Potato first. Jingyu hurriedly asked Qing Ge after confirming that Bai Jio was fine. I knew that ninth sister-in-law would ask about Little Potato. Qing Ge calmly put down the teacup in his hand and said, when ninth brother told me about this, I already sent people to investigate, but they didn't find Little Potato. Then I asked Master to gather everyone in the Miracle Medical Valley. Indeed, no one saved a child. However, a junior brother and sister said that they saw an eagle flying over with something in its hand. Unfortunately, this junior brother was drunk. After he sobered up, we went to ask him, but he said he didn't know anything at all. Later, we had to increase the scope of our search, and we really found it. However, we only found a child's clothes and a letter. My master said that there might be some kind of expert living deep in the mountains. Expert? Jingyu frowned. Why did it sound like a fortuitous encounter in a martial arts novel? Yes, Qinggu said seriously. I have a feeling that Little Potato must have been saved by an expert. Ninth sister-in-law, you don't know, but I heard that the Valley Master of Miracle Physician Valley for many generations loved to travel the world. I don't know if he's still alive. Jingyu listened to Qing Ji's words and looked at Qing Ji's expression. The corners of her mouth twitched violently. She didn't want to talk to Qinggu anymore. She really didn't know how this child grew up. He was so gullible with just a few words. Okay, I got it. Jingyu resentfully raised her hand and interrupted Qinggu. It was the same as not saying anything. I'm telling the truth. Qinggu looked at Jingyu excitedly and said, let me tell you a secret. Jingyu looked at Qinggu calmly. She wanted to see what this fool would say. I remember that when I went to the mountains to pick herbs, I got lost. It was a person who brought me back. However, I can't remember his face. I only remember that he held my hand. On the way back, he said a lot to me. What did he say? Jingyu raised her hand slightly and poured herself a cup of tea. What did he say? I have to maintain my own nature. A doctor can save people and also kill people. Something like that. It's been too long. I don't even remember it, Qinggu said as he rubbed his head in a simple and honest manner. His eyes were filled with a conflicted expression. Yes. Jingyu nodded slightly and said, if the person who brought you back saw you now, he would be very emotional. You really have maintained your nature. What? Qinggu was slightly taken aback. He looked at Jingyu and said, I'm telling the truth. If it wasn't for that person's encouragement, I would have been the worst among my fellow disciples. Later on, I worked very, very hard. In the past, I always thought that studying medicine was a boring thing. Later on, I suddenly discovered the joy of studying medicine. Do you know how I felt when I cured someone for the first time? Qinggu said excitedly. I will never forget that feeling for the rest of my life. Qinggu, if everyone in Miracle Physician Valley was like you, then Miracle Physician Valley would win the respect of everyone in the world, Jingyu said with a deep sigh. Chapter 16-20. Really? Qinggu smiled and said, if that's the case, Master will be very happy. Okay. Jingyu smiled and said, your biggest task now is to cure White Nine. It's very difficult to recover in winter. I still have a lot of questions to ask White Nine. I know. Qinggu said casually. When spring comes, White Nine will definitely be able to walk. It's just that we'll have to spend the new year outside. Qing Ji's eyes were full of bitterness as he spoke. After a deep sigh, he seemed to have thought of something and said, by the way, I heard a piece of news a while ago. I don't know if it's true or not. What's wrong? Jingyu turned her head lazily and asked Qinggu. It's like this. When I went to buy medicine a few days ago, I heard some people talking about some hidden treasure in the Pingyao Desert. It attracted a lot of people. I don't know if it's true or not. Hidden treasure in the desert. Jingyu heard Qing Ji's words and turned her head slightly to look at Xiao Chun. The two of them looked at each other, and there was a flash of surprise in their eyes. Did you see who said it? Jingyu looked at Qinggu with a serious expression and asked. Looking at those people, they seem to be people who do some shady business in the underworld. They are either escorts or escorts into the desert. Chinga thought for a moment and said, I don't think this matter is groundless, so I sent someone to inquire about it. Only then did I know that this rumor was spread by someone who accidentally obtained a treasure map and then caused a huge commotion in the underworld. This happened half a month ago. Chinga looked at Jingyu with a serious expression and said, Ninth brother, ninth sister, what do you think? Chinga looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun as he spoke. It's better to believe it than not. Xiao Chun was silent for a moment and said, Perhaps this matter will be an opportunity for us. Could it be that you want to use external forces to stir up this war? The moment Xiao Chun finished speaking, Jingyu seemed to have suddenly thought of something. She looked at Xiao Chun with a face full of surprise. Yes. Xiao Chun nodded slowly. The light in his eyes made Jingyu sit up straighter. Now that you mention it, it seems like a good idea. The corners of Jingyu's mouth curled up slowly. When she met Xiao Chen's eyes, both of them laughed. What are you talking about? Chinga looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun from the side. His eyes were filled with confusion, and he frowned as he looked at the two of them. Let Xing Yi prepare. Jingyu ignored Qing Ji's call and said with a faint smile. Xiao Chun responded, then raised his voice to call interrogation one in. Go and spread the news that there's an oasis in the Pingyao Desert and that there's a treasure under the Sand City. Xiao Chun looked at Xing Yi and said calmly, You know what to say, right? Yes, your subordinate understands. Xing Yi was slightly taken aback. Then he lowered his head and bowed before striding out. Ninth brother, you guys aren't going to snatch this treasure, are you? Chinga looked at Jingyu and Xiao Chun in shock as he watched Xing Yi leave. When he saw Jingyu and Xiao Chen's calm expressions, Chinga instantly felt uneasy. Chapter 16:21. If Jingyu and Xiao Chun also wanted to go to the Pingyao Desert, then he would definitely be dragged along. He didn't want that. Chinga wanted to cry, but had no tears. Why are you pulling a long face? Jingyu looked at Chinga calmly and said, If there really is a treasure, don't you want it? I want it, but... Chinga frowned and said, You guys spread the news so widely that it will attract people from all over the world. How can we beat them? Chinga, you have to have confidence in yourself. If we can't beat them, let's just run, Jingyu said with a smile. Chinga instantly felt uncomfortable. He was still complaining when he left. He really shouldn't have said that. However, when he thought about it, every time he was with Brother Nine and Sister Nine, it was always dangerous. Even if nothing happened, they would definitely cause trouble. Chinga let out a long sigh and accepted his fate as he continued to take care of White Nine. After Jingyu and Xiao Chun found out about this from Chinga, they knew that the following days wouldn't be boring. Taigao City would definitely attract a lot of people. However, they didn't know if they would meet any old acquaintances. Jingyu smiled happily as she thought about it and stopped talking. Xiao Chen's news indeed caused an earth-shattering sensation. It had to be said that Xing Yi really knew how to talk. He said that there was a treasure in the treasure and that the person who obtained it could immediately establish a country. No one could resist the temptation of ruling the world. Suddenly, this news caused a huge commotion in this chaotic world. People from all over rushed to Taigao City. One had to know that Taigao City was the closest city to the Pingyao Desert. If one wanted to go to the Pingyao Desert, they would have to pass through Taigao City. When Jingyu had nothing to do every day, she would lie on the windowsill and watch people brave the wind and snow to enter Taigao City. Some people couldn't resist and even went to the desert. However, going to the desert in this kind of weather was simply courting death. Obviously, they wouldn't have a good ending. Jingyu watched quietly from the beginning. Chingu kept complaining that more and more people were coming and that the streets were crowded. Moreover, Chingu had the foresight to prepare countless medicinal herbs. Jingyu didn't care about these things at all. She allowed Chingu to do whatever he wanted. She watched with her own eyes as the originally cold and cheerless Taigao City became lively in an instant. Her lips curled up in delight. The temptation of this treasure was really great. Jingyu was suddenly filled with anticipation. If so many people rushed into the lair of the Sound Attack aristocratic family, what would the result be? Thinking of this, She felt that it was very interesting. The corners of her mouth slightly curved into a faint smile. What's making you smile so happily? When Xiaochen walked into the room, he saw Jing Yu's smiling eyes. He walked forward and sat down next to Jing Yu. He asked curiously, "Nothing." Jing Yu smiled faintly and said, "How is the situation outside?" "Everything is going according to the expected direction." After Xiaochen calmly said that, Jing Yu also smiled and said, "I heard that Bai Jiu woke up. You came at the right time. Let's go and take a look." Chapter 16:22. Okay. Xiaochen agreed and followed Jingyu into Bai Jiu's room. When they entered, they saw Qing Gu feeding Bai Jiu the medicine. Bai Jiu's arms were broken, and he couldn't do anything by himself. Jingyu raised her eyebrows slightly and walked towards Bai Jiu. She didn't think that they would meet again after such a long time. Jingyu looked at Bai Jiu's thin face and frowned slightly. Bai Jiu must have had a hard time in this period of time. Ninth Emperor's ninth imperial concubine. Bai Jiu's face was still a bit pale, and his hands were held in place by wooden planks. Jingyu looked at Bai Jiu, and his eyes seemed to have popped out a lot. "How is it? Do you feel better?" Jingyu and Xiaochen went up and asked with a smile. "Much better." Bai Jiu also smiled faintly and looked at Jingyu and Xiaochen calmly. "That's good." Jingyu nodded slightly and said, "Your injuries are very serious, and the wounds seem to be caused by a wild beast. Do you remember what happened?" Jingyu and Xiaochen sat down at a table and asked Bai Jiu. "Yes." Bai Jiu heard Jingyu's question, and his eyes were slightly bitter. He sighed deeply and said, "It was done by the family of Musical Attack." "You really went to find the family of Musical Attack?" Jingyu heard Bai Jiu's words, and her expression changed. She asked with a heavy expression of shock. "Yes." White Nine pursed his lips and said, "All these years, I've been looking for the whereabouts of the Sound Attack aristocratic family. Later, I followed the Sound Attack aristocratic family all the way to Taigao City. Only then did I know that the Sound Attack aristocratic family was hiding in the Pingyao Desert. For so long, I walked through the entire desert and finally found Sand City. However, before I could do anything, I was attacked by the family of Musical Attack. They summoned desert wolves and chased me out of the desert. If I wasn't familiar with the route, I would have been eaten by the wolves." Bai Jiu said emotionally, "They brought Yi Shui to the desert. I must save her." "Don't worry." Jingyu frowned slightly and said, "You knew how powerful the family of Musical Attack is, yet you still dared to rush in. That's not wise. The family of Musical Attack only wants to capture Yi Shui. They definitely won't do anything to Yi Shui." Xiaochen also said slowly, "You know what happened back then. This person from the Sound Attack aristocratic family has such a terrifying ability to control beasts with sound. If you rush in so recklessly, you'll just be throwing your life away." Jingyu said, "Yi Shui is my friend. I'll save her no matter what. Don't worry." Bai Jiu heard Jingyu's words, and his eyes lit up. He looked at Jingyu and said, "Really? Of course." Jingyu nodded firmly and said, "But I need you to recover. You said you're familiar with the route in the Pingyao Desert? I need your help." "Yes." White Nine nodded seriously and said, "It took me a long time to figure out the route in the Pingyao Desert. Ordinary people might be attracted by the mirage when they enter." Chapter 16:23. I've long heard that there are mirages in the Pingyao Desert. I didn't expect it to be true. Jingyu's eyes also showed some surprise, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly as she spoke with a faint smile. "Yes." Bai Jiu nodded slowly and said, "The Pingyao Desert is the largest desert on this continent. The people from the Sound Attack aristocratic family are hidden in the depths of the desert. If you're not careful when walking in the depths of the desert, you might enter the territory of some wild beasts. You have to know that there aren't just desert wolves in the desert." Bai Jiu's words were filled with seriousness. "You're really bold." When Xingu heard this, he sighed deeply and said, "Those old scars on your body are from when you went into the desert alone and provoked some unknown beast, right?" "Yes." Bai Jiu nodded slightly and looked a little embarrassed. No wonder I found some hidden poison in your body. I thought you were drugged, but now it seems like it was left behind by some poisonous snakes in the desert. You're really lucky to be able to survive. Qingji's eyes were filled with admiration as he spoke. I still haven't thanked Lord Qingge for saving my life. Bai Jiu heard Qingji's words and quickly moved his body. All right, wait until you're fully recovered before thanking me. Qingge pursed his lips and turned around to leave with a bowl of medicine. He said slowly, patients should pay more attention to rest. Jingyu's mouth twitched. She knew that Qingge was chasing her away. Jingyu and Xiao Chan understood after getting a rough understanding of the situation. After letting Bai Jiu rest, Jingyu and Xiao Chen left. It seemed that the desert wasn't a good place. If they were to go, they had to pay more attention. The following days were much more peaceful. At least, Jingyu thought it was very peaceful. There were more and more people outside, especially during the New Year. Taigao City was completely overcrowded. Every day, Jingyu would be woken up by the noise. From time to time, there would be a murder case. They hadn't even entered the desert yet, but there was already a massacre. If they really went in, who knew what would happen? Jingyu frowned helplessly. She lay on the bed and turned around in annoyance. These people were really noisy. Jingyu was annoyed. Just as she got up from the bed with resentment, she heard the sound of swords clashing outside. Jingyu yawned in boredom and opened the window. The noise outside suddenly became louder. Jingyu frowned slightly. She casually put on a shirt and looked at the scene below. Jingyu originally had the mentality of watching a good show. However, when she saw the people below, Jingyu was stunned. Phone watching? Jingyu widened her eyes slightly. Looking at the fighting ring below, the corner of her mouth curved into a playful smile. What was the point of fighting like this? Jingyu saw with her own eyes that phone watching dealt with those people neatly and neatly. She smiled faintly. Your dog eyes must be blind. Phone watching flicked his sleeves disdainfully, turned around, and left. Jingyu's playfulness was aroused. When she saw the wine glass on the table, she smiled slightly, raised her hand, and threw it at phone watching. Chapter 16:24. Phone watching's expression turned slightly cold. When he reached out to take it, he thought it was a hidden weapon. However, when he saw the teacup in his hand, he was clearly stunned for a moment. He raised his head slightly and saw Jingyu's figure sitting lazily by the windowsill in her clothes. Jingyu smiled faintly at phone watching. Phone watching looked down at the teacup and walked into the inn. The Ninth Imperial Concubine's way of inviting people to tea is really unique. When phone watching sat down in front of Jingyu didn't even reach out to pour him a cup of tea. She glanced at phone watching indifferently. She was clearly letting phone watching fend for himself. Tell me, why did you call me up? Phone watching looked calmly at Jingyu and asked. His tone and every action made Jingyu extremely curious. Was this really the phone watching she knew? This change was too great. Jingyu's eyes were filled with curiosity. She sized phone watching up from head to toe without saying anything. What? You don't recognize me? Phone watching lowered his head slightly and looked at his clothes. He raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Jingyu as he asked casually. It's such a coincidence to see Tower Master Phone here. Jingyu said indifferently. Phone watching raised his hand to his forehead helplessly and said, Jingyu, don't talk to me like that. I was just bored in Sanluo Tower and came out to wander. Huh? Jingyu propped her chin up and looked at phone watching. She said, no matter how I look at it, I feel like there's something wrong with you. Did something interesting happen between you and Hellion Theo? Jingyu asked with great interest. However, her question made phone watching's expression turn ugly instantly. He frowned tightly, put down the teacup in his hand, and said, I still have something to do. I'll take my leave first. Phone watching was about to stand up, but just as he stood up, the door of the inn was opened again. Xiaochen walked in with a person. That person was the person Jing Yuegang mentioned. Oh, Hellion Theo, you're here too? Speak of the devil, and he will appear. Jing Yu said as her gaze slowly shifted to phone watching. Sure enough, She saw a moment of astonishment on Foam Watching's face. Then, Jingyu realized that the atmosphere in the room had become extremely strange in an instant. Hellion Theo and Foam Watching looked at each other. Jingyu didn't know why, but she had a very strange feeling. Ahem. This atmosphere lasted for a minute. Jingyu coughed silently and said, "Why are you all standing? Sit down and talk. I have something to do. I'll leave first. Talk to you next time." Foam Watching slowly lowered his head. After bowing slightly to Jingyu and Xiao Chun, he walked past Hellion Theo expressionlessly with a stiff face. Hellion Theo's expression was very interesting. Jingyu talked to Hellion Theo for a long time, but Hellion Theo didn't reply. She frowned in confusion. Was this person's heart completely stolen? It seemed that a lot of interesting things must have happened between Hellion Theo and Foam Watching. But looking at the two of them, it wouldn't be easy for Jingyu to dig it out. Hellion Theo? Jingyu called out again. Hellion Theo came back to his senses and lowered his head slightly. Then, he looked up at Jingyu and said, "I heard that there was news of some treasure here, so I came." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.